Hi guys, and welcome grade 10s to Maths Learn Extra Live.
Hi grade 10s.
And as you can see, Hayley is with us again this week and we are excited to learn more and learn extra. Today we'll be going over using graphs and tables, right?
That's it.
Do you want to tell us a bit more about it, Hayley?
Well, last week we did graphs that tell a story, so today we're going to take it a step further and see if we can actually try to draw some graphs and interpret some tables that'll help us draw graphs. So should be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, guys, I'm looking forward to it too. And if you have any graphs or any tables that you want to send through, let's have some fun. I don't mind if you post pictures, just take a picture with your cell phone. It doesn't have to be the best quality. I just want to say thank you so much to Liberty for making this show possible. You guys rock. And guys, don't forget that we're having a question session in the last 15 minutes of the show. Please make sure that the questions that you put in are relevant and stick to the topic we're talking about. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a quick break. And we'll see you right after that. See you now. Hi guys, and welcome back to Maths Lit Learn Extra Live. I'm so glad to be back, and I'm sorry for all of you guys that I wasn't here. Otsile says welcome back. Hi guys, and I'm so glad, and we're going to have such an awesome lesson. You know, I actually miss you guys when I'm not here. I really, really do. And I think without further ado, we're going to be going over to Hayley with using graphs and tables. So take it away.
Thanks, Indy. Hi guys. Okay, today we're going to be dealing with using graphs and tables. But before we do that, I think we must go back to Indy or ask Indy for our numbers. So let's see. I think I've got some space somewhere. Okay, I've got some space here. So let's see. Indy, what are our numbers? So we're going to, I think 4 weeks ago we had.
Yes. Okay. Are we starting right from the beginning, or do you want to start with today's?
Well, let's start with today's.
Okay. Today we have 7,303.
303. Okay, so last week's. This was 1 week ago.
Yeah.
It was 6 something. I know we beat the, what was that? 6?
Okay, so now we're going to
1 week ago.
Okay, 1 week ago was 6,578.
578. So we went up by like 800.
Yeah, amazing.
That is absolutely amazing. I don't know if we need to go any further. I think we just carry on. One of these days I'm going to give you actually a sum with it, and we're going to work out our percentage increase. But let's not do it today because I want to get onto the tables and graphs. But what I want to say, and I was talking to Indy before we started, our numbers have gone up so nicely. They really have improved. But what we need to do is we really want to meet that 8,000. I think that'll be our next little hurdle. And then
so
I think we need to go 10,000.
How much would we need to go up to get to 8,000 by next week?
By next week. It's not too much, not too bad. We need about 700 more people. Look, I'll speak to your friends. Come on, tell everybody how important this is. Speak to your friends and connect. I don't remember the website. Do you want to just give it to them once more?
It's okay, guys. Guys, just in case you don't know it by now, I feel like a bit of a stuck record sometimes. It's facebook.com/learnextra. Also chat to us on Twitter @learnextra. We want to chat to you. Get those questions in. We'll be answering them in the last 15 minutes. Don't forget. Okay, Hayley, I think it's time to get cracking.
Right. Let's carry on. So today we're going to be dealing with graphs and tables. So the first thing that I have for you is I actually have, well, question 1 is a graph. So I'm going to read the question and we're going to interpret the graph, and let's see what they're actually asking us. So first of all, it says, given the graph showing the monthly number of immigrants, and immigrants, they even explain to us, is people moving to a country, to South Africa. So we're looking at the number of immigrants, people moving to South Africa from January 2000 to June 2003. That's what they tell us what our graph is about. And now let's see, I'm going to come back to the graph for a second. I just want to read what it says. And where they're coming from. It looks like they've given a graph showing where the immigrants who come to South Africa are from, as well as the total number of immigrants from 2000 to 2003. So we've got what it appears to be 2 different graphs, and the questions are going to be related to those graphs. So first of all, before we carry on reading, let us interpret what the graph is. Let's look at the story behind the graph like we did last week. So our first graph, we said, was the total number of immigrants to South Africa per month. That's very important, from January 2000 to June 2003. And then you can see on my, whoops, go back to that. What happened to that? Okay, we can see on my axis, my x-axis, my independent axis, I've got the months of the year. So starting in January 2000, then I've got March 2000, May 2000, etc., all the way up to May 2003. And on my other axis, my y-axis, which is my dependent variable, is the number of immigrants. And we go up in values of 50. So I'm going from 50, 100, etc., okay? So every month I can see a specific amount. So if I look at January, it's that dot over there, I can see that 200 people immigrated to South Africa in January 2000. Then I've got another line which tells me March. So I've got between 150 and 200, so I'm probably looking at about 175 people that came in March. Okay, so if you can see that over there. And I've got a line in between. And why have I got a dot in between? Okay, let's take one where I don't have writing on, or let's delete the writing for a second. I've got a dot in between. Why is that dot in between? That's a question for me. So I want to know, well, first of all, that reading is about 220 immigrants. And they've given me a specific dot because it actually falls between these 2 months. It's not a very straight line. But between January and March 2000, I've got the month of February. So what this is actually showing me is every single month of the year as a dot, and it's only given me labels for every second month. But I hope that makes sense to you. So now let us see, we can basically see what the trend of the graph is. Okay, let's delete that. We can see that it kind of starts at 200 and it goes up a little bit, and we've got going down in June, and then it's kind of steady. Okay, my line is moving. We kind of moved it, decided there were more people immigrating. Right, and it's steadily, it's kind of solid, constant for quite a while, up and down a little bit, but round about the 200. And then it goes up quite a bit in this portion here. It goes back down to about 200, and it increases again in kind of September to May of 2003. So when we look at the whole graph, we can actually see a trend, and we can see that it was constant, up and down a little bit, but fairly constant. We had an increase, and then we had a little bit of a constant again, drop, and increase again. So when they ask for a trend, we know what we're looking at. It's a picture, and I think we can actually get quite a lot out of the graph. That's our story. Let's look at the second graph of the question. Given a graph showing where the immigrants who come to South Africa are from, as well as the total number of immigrants from 2000 to 2003. We're dealing with the same time frame. That's really important. So my guess is we're looking at two different aspects of immigration within that time frame. So where do immigrants to South Africa come from, and our total number? So what's important? Let's change our color for a second. If I can find my pen, and let's make it purple. Our total number is 12,733 people. That's the total number of people that immigrated to South Africa in that period of time. And where did they come from? Well, now I've got a pie chart. So every portion of my pie is actually a fraction of that whole number. So let's look at it. And remember last week I told you that mostly pies are in order. They go from biggest to smallest. Clearly they didn't do this here. But let's answer it anyway. So I've got Europe, 36%. That represents Europe. 36% of my total. So 36% of 12,733 came from Europe. Then I've got a tiny little portion of 2% from Australia and New Zealand. 27% from Africa. I'm going to come back to that in a second. The Americas are 5% and Asia 30%. Now this kind of has a little bit of not a problem with me, but it kind of makes me think, what do they mean by Africa? We are Africa, aren't we? Then you've got to think, no, we're actually not Africa, we are South Africa. So Africa means from the rest of the continent. And we're clearly just looking at the different continents and how many people come in from the continents. Now, in our graph last week, and I hope you guys can remember, we had a very big portion for other when we were looking at countries, and we were looking at imports, and we had quite a big portion from other. But there we were looking at countries. I think every country on the planet can fit into one of those categories. So we've literally just got all our continents. Okay, let's go see what the questions are. So, I can get this down. What was the number of immigrants to South Africa in January 2000? So, now let's find some space. We're dealing with, and I'm going to go back to let's change the color to yellow, the number of immigrants. So now I need to say to myself, well, which graph do I need to use? And I've been given two graphs. The one gave me where they're coming from, and the other graph gave me the number of people coming into the country. So clearly I need to use the first graph. So let's go up to the first graph, and remember January 2000. So we're going to go back to the graph, and we're going to see January 2000, and now we need to read this value off the graph, so we can draw a line up from January. I don't know how well I can draw straight lines. Line up from January and see where it actually cuts the other axis. And okay, the yellow doesn't seem to be working, so let's try another color. Let's go back to, let's do purple. So from January, I'm going to try that again. I'm drawing a line up and see where it crosses the graph, the actual line of the graph. And I can see that it does that at this dot. I'm going to circle it actually, and then I can read that dot being 200. Now it's very specific because it crosses one of the lines, so I can easily read that as 200. If it is in between lines, it's a little bit harder to read, and we take a little bit of what I like to call a guesstimate. Just a little bit of educated guesstimate. So this is our 200, and that's our answer. We wanted to know the number of people, so that tells us it's 200 people. So let's go back down and see if we can actually write that in. So the number of people is 200 people. And remember, okay, we're having a problem with colors today. I don't know why I'm having a problem with colors today. Okay, let's try that again. So 200 people. Remember, guys, that Mathslit has always got a reference. So 200, you need to tell me that it's 200 people. I know that I've asked the question, I've said how many people are immigrating, but add it in your answer, because it's getting into the habit of always including a unit or an explanation for your numbers. I always say to my kids, is it 200 Smarties, is it 200 people, or is it 200 shoes? What is it? Isn't that a good point to actually put across onto Facebook?
Definitely will.
Facebook and Indy, just tell them it's so important. I think that they keep a unit. There's a reference.
Definitely.
And I don't know, by the end of my teaching, I'm always starving for Smarties because I keep using that example.
And cake.
Cake with a
Me
pie
too.
top.
Me too, Hayley. Cake.
I always want some Smarties. I think next week I'm going to bring us Smarties.
Yes.
Okay, guys, let's go on and see what else is on the question, the next part of the question. Let's see if I can get to the next part of the question. I'm going the wrong way. Okay, now we got our graphs again. And the next question says, what was the number of immigrants to South Africa in January 2001? So clearly they want to know the difference between one year and the next. So now I'll go back to our graph. We're looking at our numbers. We've got to find January 2001. There's January 2001. And now we're reading this up here. Okay, I'm not going to draw it. This is what I was talking about earlier. It is not exactly on the 200. It is above the 200. But it is less than the 250. I want to kind of almost use to expand that. See if we could just zoom in on this section. So it is kind of like now we need to make a guesstimate. So if we look at this dot, it is closer to 200 than it is to 250. It's definitely less than halfway, and halfway would be 225. So I'm going to go with it's about 210 people. Now remember, we're dealing with people, so I can't have a half. So I'm going to go with about 210, and my guess is that your teachers and somebody who was marking your paper, if this came up in a paper, would give you quite a bit of leeway. They would not accept 225. We can see it's less than half. But I think they would probably choose anywhere between 205 and 220 would probably be acceptable. I'm going to go about 210. That's what I talk about guesstimates, an educated one. So we've got 210 people that immigrated to South Africa in January 2001. Let's move on. Right. What was the percentage change in the number of immigrants between January 2000 and January 2001? Percentage change, I hope you guys remember when we did percentage change. So percentage change, we had our formula. I'm going to try a green pen. Our percentage change, first of all, okay, I don't have a green pen. Percentage change is a particular formula, and we need to learn the formula. But the way we remember what the formula is we need to work out how much change occurred. So first of all, I'm going to write down my numbers. In 2000, I had 200 people, and in 2001, I had 210 people. And I want to know my percentage change. So I'm going to calculate what the change was. So the change was 210 minus 200. Then I need to divide that by my original number that I had. I'm working on the percentage change from January 2000. So I'm going to divide it by 200. And then whenever I work out percentage, whenever your question says calculate percentage, you need to times by 100. Why? Because percentage is a number out of 100. Now I'm going to give you this formula. I've written the formula. I like to tell my kids to remember that percentage change is the new number minus the old number divided by the old number and times by 100. So if you want to learn this formula for percentage change, it's a really easy formula to learn. But if you understand what we've done when we did with the numbers, then you kind of don't have to learn it. Does that make sense? Learn it or understand
Makes total
it.
sense, yeah. Yeah.
I hope that does make sense. But let's get our calculator out. Now, remember, you don't necessarily all have scientific calculators. So I'm going to show you how to do the calculation without a scientific calculator. But if you'd like to use a scientific calculator, which you know by now you can, then you can use your fraction button. So we don't have a fraction button. Let's see what we're going to do. We're going to say 210 minus 200. That's my change. Now, I have to press equals, because otherwise we're going to have both mass coming into it, and it's going to divide my number first. So we don't want that to happen. So I'm going to press equals, and I get my change was 10. Now I'm taking that 10 and I'm dividing it by the original amount, which was 200. And I'm going to press equals again, and then I'm going to times by 100 because it's a percentage, and I see that it is 5%. It's a positive number. We'll discuss that in a second. So what color was I using? Green. So that's equal to 5% change. Now, I told you it was a positive number. What does that positive number mean? It was a 5% increase. So we've got a 5% increase. If you do the calculations where you've done your new minus old divided by old, or your change divided by the original value, and times by 100 and get a negative number, remember we cannot have a negative percentage. It has to be positive because percentage is like out of 100, so we can't have a negative number. It doesn't make any sense. The negative means that it is a percentage decrease. And I think we did that when we did percentages, indeed, didn't we?
Yeah, I remember doing that.
I think we did.
Yeah.
So just a quick reminder. Right, let's see what else the question asks.
And we can take a little break after this, or we can take a little break now.
Should we take a little break? Let's take a little break and we'll come back to this.
I think so. What I want to say is, guys, if you are watching, if you're understanding, that's awesome. Please just let me know if there is anything that you're not understanding, even if it is just to pop onto the page just to say hello. I know Stephanie said that she actually had to use a graph in her exam today. So I think I would love to know who's learning about graphs at school right now. Let me know on the page. That's www.facebook.com/learnextra. Also on Twitter @learnextra, and we'll take a little break and see you now. Hi guys, and welcome back. I hope you had an awesome little break. I know we did. It's the time I get to discuss the page and everything that's going on it with Hayley. Tundu, she said, hey guys, this program is helping me, so thanks so much. Tundu, it's such a pleasure. Guys, just remember that you can send whatever questions through onto the page. You can even help each other out and start posing challenge. Pose us. Why don't you guys try and post us a challenge question for a change? That's what I reckon we should do, Hayley.
That sounds like fun.
I'm telling you. So guys, don't forget, it's facebook.com/learnextra. Also chat to me on Twitter @learnextra, and let's start learning more. Learning extra. Hayley, take it away.
Yeah, I think a challenge question sounds like a good idea, indeed. Especially since we don't have a challenge question for them today. So
Yes.
I think we've got to get our act together and get a challenge question. So I really am sorry there's no challenge question today. Hopefully there'll be one next week. But I really needed to explain tables and graphs, and so forgive us, and well, you post a challenge question for us.
Yes,
Sounds
you guys should send us a challenge question. I really like that idea.
I think it's a great idea.
Fantastic.
Okay, let's go back to the question. So now, I think this is the last part of our question. It says, calculate the number of immigrants who come to South Africa from 2000 to 2003 from Europe, oh, I don't have a pen, from Europe and Asia. So they're asking us, what are they actually asking us? They want to know the number of immigrants who come to South Africa from two different continents, or two different continents. So we want to calculate first what percentage, we're going to use our percentage table now. What percentage come from Europe and Asia? So we've got 36% coming from Europe and 30% coming from Asia. So from Europe and Asia, I want to put this like big plus in the middle. Does that work? Big plus in the middle. From Europe and Asia, well, let's write Asia here. And Asia, we have a total of 36 plus 30, we've got 66%. But they didn't ask me for the percentage, they asked me for the number of people. So I need to now work out what that 66% represents. So I know it's 66%. But 66% of what? So let's go back, we want to go of our total that come in to the country. So it's 12,733. 12,733. And now I think we're going to need our calculator to do this calculation. Now, if you're using, and this is another thing I keep telling my kids, you need to use the same calculator. And use the same calculator consistently, and I'm hoping for the next 3 years. Because you get used to how your calculator works. And only by practicing everything on your calculator will you actually know how it works. So hope your calculator stays with you for a long time. So when it comes to percentage, some calculators you can type in the 66% first, and other calculators you need to actually type in the number first. So I'm going to calculate the number first. So it was 12,000, I can't remember what the number was, 12,733. So 12,733, and then times by 66%. That's not a percent. Shift and percent. When you're typing on your calculator, please check that what you've actually entered on your calculator is the same thing that you calculated on your paper. Because another thing that my kids love saying is, but the calculator said so. And not always what the calculator says actually makes sense, and not always is it correct. So it all depends on what we've actually entered and how we often interpret that answer. So I'm going to take that and let's calculate that. Before I actually convert that into a number, what are we expecting? Kind of like as a rough estimate, I'm expecting about 2/3 of that. So if I do a rough, let's go back to that number. If I do a rough estimate, 66% is about 2/3, and I'm expecting about 2/3 of 12,700. So 12,000, I know is quite easy for me to work out. 2/3 is about 8,000. That's roughly what I'm looking at. So I have some idea of what my answer should be. I get an answer of 8,403,78. So let's write that answer in, and then we can discuss how. It was 8,000. Okay, I don't have a pen. 8,000, can't remember the number now, 403.78. 403.78. Now, that's my answer. But again, okay, it's about 8,000, which is what I was expecting. So I know my answer's probably correct. But there's a problem here because I'm dealing with people. And if I said to you that there was 8,403.78 people, how do I get a 0.78 of a person? I can't. I can't send in half a body and say that's a 3/4 of a person. So I need to come back to the reference of what are we dealing with, and I'm going to have to round this off. So I'm going to round up because it's greater than 5, and I'm going to say, well, that is roughly equal to 8,404 people. Right? It is always important for us, for you to look at the context and see what we're dealing with when you give us the answer. Because yes, that was 100% correct. It was 66. Wow, it disappeared. It was 66. It was 66% of our number. But we were dealing with people coming into the country, the number of immigrants, and I can't have 0.78 of a person. So I hope that makes sense. And now let's see if we can move on to the next question. Right, question 2. So we have Mrs. Moloi attended a conference in South Africa on the recycling of waste material. Sounds like a great conference, doesn't it, Indy?
It does.
She presented a paper at the conference on the recycling of waste material in Australia and used the following table in her presentation. Okay, so let's not get confused. She's attending a conference in South Africa, but she's actually dealing with Australia, a paper that was about the recycling in Australia. Probably getting us to compare and see, well, which actually does more recycling. Or maybe encouraging us to recycle as much as Australia. Not quite sure. Would have loved to be there. Recycling of waste material in Australia. So this is a table. Now, before we carry on with the questions, I really want us to take time to read the table and understand what the table means. So as soon as you get a table, I know what often happens is we think there's too many numbers, I'm too confused, I'm going to give up. And I don't want you to do that. So we're going to look at the table carefully, and I'm going to give you a few tips as to what to deal with a table when you get your own table in a test or an exam or even in class. How do we deal with it? First of all, we read our heading, which we've done. Then we're going to look at what are our categories, what are our headings of our columns. So I'm dealing here with type of waste, the number of households that recycled waste material, so we're looking at numbers. Then I've got methods of recycling, reused at home, sent to a central collection point, sent to a waste transfer centre. So those are the categories that I'm looking at. And under each one we've got different information. So under the types of waste, we've got, for example, plastic bottles. So let's now deal with a row going across and see what that tells us about the plastic bottles. So we know plastic bottles is a type of waste. Perfect. Then we look at the number of households that recycled waste material. Well, I'm looking at 592,000 households that recycled waste material. They recycled plastic bottles. I'm looking at the method of recycling. Well, 7% of them reused it at the home, 30% sent it to a central collection point, and 63% sent it to a waste transfer centre. So quite clearly that is what my plastic bottles is telling me. And then I've got for each different type of waste, I've got the same percentage breakdown and number breakdown. So I've got aluminium cans, motor oil, paper and cardboard, plastic bags and glass. Now, I would love to see these statistics for South Africa. I'm not sure if they're actually available. So let's now see what the questions ask us. Right, so first of all, we've also got an asterisk. So, sent to a central collection point, there's one asterisk. That tells us it's given to individuals or organizations for reuse. So we collect the bottles and we send them to an organization who reuse them. And the second one, sent to a waste transfer center, has got 2 stars, which says taken back to the industry for recycling. What do we mean there? It's taken back. They're probably crushed, destroyed, recreated, or refilled, or whatever it is that they do in the recycling center. Right, let's see what our question is. Of the various types of waste, which one was reused the least at home? So we want to know which was reused at home. We know that was one of our categories, so we're going to look at that category. In fact, let's go up to that. Reused at home. We're going to be using that category. And what does the question ask? It actually asks us for reused the least. So the least is the lowest number. So I'm going to go back up here and see, well, okay, reused at home, I've got 7%, 1, 17, 50, and I'm literally looking for the lowest number. So reused at home, aluminium cans are reused the least at home. So then we can write in our answer. So it was, I don't think I can ever spell that, aluminium cans. I actually spelled that correctly.
Well done.
Aluminium.
It's a hard
I think
word.
so. And then with the Americans say aluminum. No, anyway.
I'm not going to confuse.
Aluminium. That's the way I say it. Right, let's move on to the next part of the question. So, if we can, if our board's going to cooperate. Okay, we've got our table again. And then it says, of the various types of waste, which one was sent to waste transfer centers the most? So they're looking at 2 extremes. Now we're looking at the most. So that's important because I'm looking for my highest. And what do I want? Waste transfer centers. So let's go to my waste transfer centers. I've got central collection, waste transfer centers. That's that column. And I'm looking for the highest. And the highest is 79%. So clearly it is paper and cardboard. Okay, that's a little bit easier for me to write. So paper and cardboard. Paper and cardboard. Let's see what the next part of our question says. Right. Mrs. Moloi used 6 pie charts to illustrate the method of recycling the various types of waste. 2 of the pie charts are shown below. So she had 6 pie charts and we're only looking at 2 of them. Now, what does the pie chart say? It's the percentage of a particular type of waste sent to each of the 3 methods of recycling. So we have 66% sent somewhere, 17% and 17%. We also have, the second chart says 58% sent to the same place because it's the same color, 25% to the pink and 17% the same amount there. Okay, and the question asks us, which chart illustrated the recycling of glass? So which recycling of glass? But what we need to do is we need to find glass. We're going to go back up to our table and see where our glass is. There's my glass. And I'm going to see which one of those charts actually represents this information. So I've got 17% to one place that was reused at home, 17% sent to a central station, and 66% to the waste transfer center. I'm looking for 17, 17, and 66. So clearly it must be chart A. And this must be reused at home, sent to the one, and sent to the other. Does that make sense? This does not fit in. We've got our 17, but that's the only one that's the same. So which was sent to recycling was chart A. How's that sound?
Fantastic.
Really would like to see some of this on South African information.
It's amazing.
Okay.
Well, Stephanie said on the page that she had a graph exactly like this today too, and the same question. So, not too far off, hey?
Not too far.
Not too far off.
I hope that she did all right with it. Ask her how she did.
I'm going
It'd
to
be interesting
right
to
now,
know.
right now.
Interesting to know. Let's try and quickly finish this. I hope we've got enough time to quickly finish this part of the question.
Yes, we do.
which type of waste material is illustrated by the other chart? Well, now they're asking us in reverse. So the first time they wanted to know how much was the glass, and now they want to know, well, what this represents. Well, clearly now we're looking for reused at home, because we know that's reused at home from our other chart of 58%. So let's try find that first. So we're looking for 58% reused at home. Okay, it's not there. So maybe 58% reused at home. Maybe we don't do it with the reused at home. Maybe they've changed the colors. Was 66% for glass reused at home? Where was... No, it wasn't reused at home. I'm getting confused here. There's the 66% for the glass. We're looking for 58 now. So clearly it must be that one. I'm going to check the other two. Was 25 and 17. So that must be motor oil. So I've got my 25 and 17. This must be motor oil. So I think that would be motor oil. So motor oil is the other chart. Hey, so we need to be able to interpret the graphs both ways. It's really nice being able to apply one to a pie chart and being able to read a pie chart, where did it fit into the graph. So we're moving on to the next part of the question. I know that we're going to be taking a break soon, but should we just read through the question? I think that we should do that.
Let's read through the question and then we'll go straight to it.
Okay, so question 3 says the table below shows how the fuel price in South Africa has changed in the first 3 months of 2012, because we've just had another petrol increase, getting more and more expensive to go anywhere. So let's just discuss our table.
A bicycle.
Our table. Now I gave you a table very similar to this the other day, but now we've got a new petrol price. So we've got fuel pricing for 2012. We've got two different prices, Gauteng and we've got the coast. We're dealing with petrol, and this is clearly our dates. So 4th of January we've got a price, the 1st of Feb we've got a price, and the 7th of March we've got another price. So we've just had this increase. We're looking at unleaded, and there's 93 and 95. And then these are the prices, and we've got LRP, 93 prices, and at the coast unleaded is a little bit cheaper. So we've got coast and Gauteng. I just want to look at our prices. So we're going to be dealing with 93 in Gauteng. We go from 10 Rand 77. Now remember that number we discussed last week, that it must be cents, and it's gone up to 11.05. Or if you're at the coast, let's look at that. We've got 10 Rand 60 to 10 Rand 88. I don't know where this is ever going to stop, Indy. Do you think it's ever going to stop?
No, I don't know. I'm thinking of getting a bicycle or a tricycle or a pogo stick. Either one.
Me on a bicycle would be a disaster. It would be an absolute disaster. But their price has just gone up. So, and the effects that this have on us is another thing we could do in another whole lesson, is what are the roll-on effects of actually this price increase, because we're going to start.
Well, I could give you a whole list of those. Food gets more expensive, everything gets more expensive, taxes go up. That's for another day. Maybe I'm just getting depressed here, guys. I think what we should do is we should take a break. Stephanie actually got 100% for that chart. She wrote in to let us know. For the
that's great.
Yeah,
well done, Stephanie.
Yeah, well done. Okay, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. Guys, if you are watching, please let me know. I know a lot of you are. I think it's fantastic. I know Dixon said hello, and he's from Zambia, and he's loving the show. I think it's great. Guys, if you are outside of South Africa, please let us know. I think it's fantastic. I think it's so interesting. Let me know if you're watching. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break. When we get back to you, we're going to get straight back on. See you now. Hi guys, and welcome back. I hope you all had a fantastic break. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to get straight back to Haley. We've got about, I think, 10 minutes left. So if you do have any questions, do get them through. I know that you guys are being very quiet, but I'm just guessing that's because you guys are understanding everything. Okay, Haley, I think let's get straight to it.
Okay, let's carry on with this question. I'm going to go straight into the question. So the question says James lives in Gauteng. Now that's important. Why? Because we're dealing with two different...
I know James.
You know James.
I know James. He's in the studio. James.
We're dealing with James. Right.
Or in the back of the studio, not inside the studio. Yeah.
And James, living in Gauteng, uses unleaded 93 petrol in his car. And the question says, how much would how much, let's cross that out, would James pay for the petrol per litre in March compared to January? So clearly we're dealing with March to January, and we've already discussed February to there. So we've got our price difference of, in the 1 month he had 11 Rand, so it's 11 Rand 05, okay, and I'm going to say that that's in March. And then what was he paying? He was paying in January, he was paying 10 Rand 43. 10 Rand 43 in January. So it asks, how much will James pay for petrol per litre in March compared to January? So we just need to write down the two values and compare them. We don't have to do anything more to it. We just have to actually give them the values. It didn't say how much more, because then we would have had to minus the one from the other. We could probably do that as a little bit extra to see how much more it is. I'm too scared to do that because I don't really want to know how much it is. I'm going to go to the petrol station and fill up with petrol. But we could compare them, but they didn't ask us for that. So let's move on to the next part. I want to try to see if we can actually still draw a graph today. So the next part of the question says, to help him see what the change in price means, James draws up the table below. So he's looking at the table, has got the amount of petrol in litres. We've got 1, 5, 10, 15, something, and 30. And we've got cost in rands, 11 Rand 05, 55.25, 110, etc., etc. So we first have to find the values of A, B, and C. Now what's important about these graphs, is these tables, this is not a graph, is that it gives us quite a bit of information. First of all, I said to you I want to try and get you to draw the graph. So from this we know, I know already, and I'm going to tell you now that we're going to have to draw a graph in the next part of the question. So it tells me my independent and dependent variable. So that's important for me to remember. Now, this is a little hint and clue. The first one is always the independent. It's what can we change, and really has no effect, but we can change the number of litres that we're looking at. The cost is directly related to how many litres I talk about. So I always say the first is X and the second is Y. So that's just a little clue. First is always the independent. We're changing that and we're getting an answer. Find the values of A, B, and C. Now what's important is for us to understand what this means. This is increasing. My number of litres of petrol is increasing at a constant rate, because it's increasing at the rate of how much does it cost for petrol per litre. And then I've got my cost also increasing. So I've got a direct proportion. And remember, a couple of weeks ago we discussed this direct proportion. Oh, what happened to my thing? Oh, disappeared. Okay, my hands are causing havoc today. Board's just doing its own thing. So what I'm basically doing is I'm saying 1 times the price, and I'm getting my answer. 5 times my rate, which was 11. So that is 5 times 11 Rand 05. I always like to check, because if I check it, then I know what I'm doing for the rest. So I'm going to quickly do that on the calculator to see what that is. So 5 times 11.05, and I get 55 Rand 25. So clearly I now know what they've done. They're multiplying by 11 Rand and 5 cents. So what am I missing here? I'm missing 15. So let's calculate 15. So it'll be 15 times by 11 Rand 05. I don't even know the price of petrol these days. 165.70, 165 Rand 75 cents. So that A is 165 Rand and 75 cents. And I can write that into A. B, I'm going to go backwards, I'll do that in a second. C, let's do C. C is 30 times that. Get some more space here. Don't think I'm going to have time to draw this. I'm very upset.
How long do you reckon it would take to draw?
30, we're going to try quickly. 30 times
much.
11.05.
Too low.
Don't talk to me. 331 Rand 50. So let's write that in. So we got C. I need a pen. C is 331 Rand 50. And now going back to B is now that number divided by the petrol price to get how many litres. So I've got my cost, 276, 276, can't remember what that was, 276.25, 25, divide by the price of petrol, no that's not the price, no, 25 litres. So we got 25 litres here, B is 25. Now what I want to show you, so B, oops, B is 25 litres. Right, what I want to show you quickly is if I can find the graph paper, because it does ask us to draw the graph. If I can find the graph paper, what I want to show you quickly, so we probably won't get time to draw it. On the graph paper, I want you to try and graph the values that they give you. So we've done these calculations. We know that's 25, and we know that this was 100 and I can't remember what it was, 165,75. So, oops, what did I do there? See, I'm rushing. 165, pen, really running out of time. 165 odd, okay?
Don't panic.
Comma 75.
It'll get done.
Right. What I want to say to you is set up your graph. We know this needs to be on the x-axis, so I need to basically go from 0 to 30. So on my x-axis, I need to go from 0 to 30. So I'm going to try this quickly. So I'm going to go from 0, and I'm going to go, okay, let's go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, how does that go? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. That should work. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay, so I've got up to 30. And then I'm going to go up, my cost needs to go from 0 to my maximum, which was 331 and 50 cents. So I need to go up to 300. So I'm going to do that on that axis. But what I want to point out is I want you to actually use the values that they've given you. Because we know this is a direct proportion. So it should go straight. It's got a constant increase. So start off at 11, and wherever your 11 is, draw the numbers they've given you. So start drawing your 5. Fill your 5 in. Fill your 10 in. And then you really only need 3 points to carry on and plot the graph. And then you can do a double check to see, does this actually fit onto my graph? So it'll tell you whether your graph is correct or not. And very often you've got information that you can use to draw. But I've just run out of time to actually draw it. So I'm sorry about that. But practice, guys, practice. Indy, run out of time.
It's okay. It always seems like these lessons are too short anyway. It's amazing how fast an hour goes. Okay, guys, thank you so much, grade 10s, for joining in to Learn Extra Live Maths Lit. Next week, we're doing a lesson on using graphs, tables, and equations, so don't miss that out. Thank you, grade 10s and grade 11s. Don't forget that you're next. Until next week, goodbye.